Much to take in when it comes to just the specifics of how storm systems pan out and even, what we deal with on the roadways. And speaking of whether it's roadways or just at the surface, here are a couple preliminary snowfall totals coming in, and these are incredibly preliminary. We'll be adding to the snowfall totals. Some of these areas might have already added to them since they came in anywhere between about 7:30 and 9 o'clock when they were reported. But White Lake had just over an inch through the morning. Farmington just shy of 2 inches. Manchester a little over an inch and exactly an inch in Dundee, and then off into Durand and Shiawassee County. So we'll continue to follow those snow reports that come in throughout the morning and into the afternoon. Clouds and radar for right now throughout the upper Midwest show mostly snow showers, but you get from Columbus southward, and that's where you'll deal with some of a wintry mix, even just southeast of Indy. That's where the rain snow line has set up with this low pressure system. So as it tracks up towards Detroit, we will really be in the path of some of the heaviest snowfall, and that heavier snow band impacts these counties shaded in pink. So Sanilac, St. Clair counties likely under that warning till closer to midnight, but you get into Macomb, Oakland, Washtenaw, Wayne, Monroe, and Lenawee counties. That will probably live closer to about 8 o'clock, but we are anticipating several inches of snow throughout the afternoon hours, and it's going to come down at a fast pace. And a lot of times you get these winter storm alerts, not just because of the snowfall totals, but the impact it has on travel, and that really will be the case as we head into the evening rush hour drive. Winter weather advisories for our remaining counties in southeast Michigan, Livingston, Genesee, and Lapeer counties until 10 o'clock this evening. Snowfall totals will be a little bit on the lighter side to our northwest compared to the heavier snow band we are anticipating in our far southeastern counties, especially downriver. Let's look outside right now. It's hard to see. Visibility is lower. We actually sit, there you go, downtown Detroit. Visibility is lower into 33 degrees in Detroit, Ann Arbor 32, Howell 32, same in Adrian, and we have enough of a breeze that factors into wind chills in the 20s. 31 in Lapeer as we speak, 32 off in Howell, and 33 down to our south in Monroe. We are going to kind of hang tight with these temperatures throughout the afternoon. Not a whole lot of fluctuation with your afternoon highs compared to where we sit right now, getting closer to 10 a.m. Widespread snow becomes a little bit more prevalent just after 10, 11 o'clock this morning into the afternoon. 34 is the projected high, and then as we head into tonight, that snow will start to taper off. We have a few remaining flurries, especially up in the thumb, where we can have a few lake effect snow bands still in the thumb overnight, but 22 degrees is where we bottom out at. So anything that's kind of slushy, if it hasn't been pre-treated or salted after it's been plowed, we could start to see a little bit of a refreeze for tomorrow morning. 33 the afternoon high tomorrow, a few flakes hanging tight, but not nearly as unsettled as that low pressure system that rolls through today. Speaking of those temperatures, though, in the 30s, Paul was mentioning it. It's worth mentioning again. Salt effectiveness. It's incredibly effective when you're right around 30 degrees. The colder it gets, the less effective that it will be outside. So you could see about 46 pounds of ice melted by 1 pound of salt when we are at 30 degrees, which we will be in the low 30s throughout the afternoon. So the pre-treating has made a huge difference this morning with the light accumulation that we've had. The only factor is that we're going to have some heavier snow rates, maybe about an inch an hour during the heart of this storm in the early afternoon hours. So that's when it gets a little tricky. It's not that these roads weren't pre-treated. A lot of that would melt if it was a slower snow pace, but the fact it's going to pick up in intensity, that's going to start to show us some signs of accumulating at a quicker pace. Snowball making forecast. I mean, we're talking about the snow, so let's have a little bit of fun with it. If the kids are home from school this afternoon, or even when they get home later today, by the time we hit the late afternoon, early evening hours, we should be looking at some good packing snow for, a friendly snowball fight. Exact Track 4D radar showing widespread snow at the moment. We don't have the heaviest bands moving in quite yet, but once again, winter storm warnings draping Metro Detroit. Let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit to show you what the winter weather impacts are for today. So from Riverview all the way up past Romeo, that's where we have a moderate chance of seeing some winter weather impacts on the roads with the accumulating snowfall. Off to our far west, more so minor impacts just because we're not going to have as much snow to deal with. But most of lower Michigan dealing with some widespread snow, and you see a few bands that are a little bit darker blue where we would have that snow coming down at a better pace. But this is a look at Exact Track 4D radar across lower Michigan at this hour. As we zoom out even more, putting our national radar on, we are on the northern edge of this system, so it's still stretching all the way off towards St. Louis with that wintry mix down by Cincinnati. This will continue to push to the northeast. So all this snow that we see throughout Indiana, Illinois, still going to head our way with the northeasterly motion of that storm. So let's look at the snowfall potential because it's been fluctuating throughout the morning. By this afternoon, that low is kind of situated right between Detroit and Buffalo. And so those heavier snow bands will trickle from Indianapolis up, just kind of skirting south of Detroit downriver and then up towards Buffalo and into a good part of Ontario. That winter storm track shows that the heaviest snow bands also bring with it several different storm watches, advisories, warnings. We are under that winter storm warning throughout the evening with winter weather advisories in our western counties all the way through central lower Michigan and into southwest Michigan, right off of Lake Michigan, where there could be some lake effect snow as well. So winter storm track, regional impacts as we've been following how that low pressure is situated. With the low, you get the heavier snow, but for the afternoon, that area of low pressure will continue pushing into the northeast, bringing some more snow showers up into the New England states this evening. That snow will not be quite as heavy, but it's still going to continue with the frontal system, and we'll get a few more bands over the next couple days. Speaking of the next couple days, rounds of snow will remain in the forecast, so there's really more to come late week. Maybe not as significant of a snowmaker as what we've had for today and still to come for the rest of today, but we could get a little bit more snow for your Friday and going in the second part of the weekend. So looking ahead to your Thursday, another system moves into the upper Midwest. We get a few flakes flying out of that, but nothing that you're going to have to really have the snowblower out for. By the time we hit Friday, we get a system that's not only pushing through the Rockies, but then starts to move into the Great Lakes. I think late Friday, maybe you see a little bit of accumulation at the surface. Then Sunday, the tail end of the weekend, that's when we have a little bit more snow, but all eyes really on today's main event with the winter storm warnings across southeastern Michigan. Clouds and radar forecast jumping ahead to about noon is when we have some of the heavier snow pushing north of the state line down into Monroe, parts of Wayne County, and in the southeastern part of Washtenaw County and Lenawee counties. Now that line really does kind of set up from about Adrian up towards Port Huron. Watch what happens as we progress throughout the afternoon. That darker shade of blue stays right along that line that we just pointed out. This is a look at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Widespread snow showers across much of lower Michigan, but that heavier band really in our far southeastern region. By 7, that's when we start to see the snow lifting north. So for our south zone, southern Wayne County, Washtenaw counties into Monroe and Lenawee counties, we finally start to get that snow tapering off. It's going to take a little bit longer, though, for that to taper off into our north zone because it has that northerly motion. So it reaches Sandusky, Bad Axe a little bit later than what it did in Monroe, but then it lasts longer into the evening in that area. By the time we hit the overnight, though, most of us will just see overcast skies, few lake effect streamers, as you see there in the thumb. And then for tomorrow, we spend most of the day with just cloudy skies. So that snowfall forecast for you, we're looking at projections still between about 4 to 6 inches of snow across the area. The purple shades just show you that heavier band that kind of sets up shop between Adrian and Port Huron. We've been anticipating all day. These models might be a little aggressive in the totals as you get out towards Howell, Lansing. I think we're probably closer to that 3-inch mark, but nonetheless, it's enough that you need to shovel or have the snow blowers out this afternoon. Another good reminder is that you need to kind of stay up with the storm instead of just waiting for it to pass because it's a heavy, wet snow. If you could kind of do it in rounds, it's going to be easier on your back and your heart. That's the healthier way to shovel this particular snow system. And then with cooler temperatures, you want to make sure that you have the gas tank at least half full, especially if you end up getting stranded somewhere or, given that we're going to have some snowy roads for the evening commute. It's always smart to at least have at least a half a tank of gas. And as we get colder temperatures going into tonight, of course, you don't want to be dealing with any kind of freezing with those tanks if those tanks are on low. I mean, I've been there with the E. Trust me, I get it. But 33 degrees tomorrow for your Thursday. A few flakes late on Friday. As mentioned, looking ahead to the upcoming weekend, we have another round of snow for your Sunday. Highs will be in the low 30s, those overnight lows in the 20s. Looking ahead to next week, that's when we have highs. It'll be much cooler, topping out in the 20s with those overnight lows in the teens. So that is a look at your full forecast.